Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George Affleck.
And it's time for
UnSpun, brought to you by this product.
hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer, wash your hands.
I use Ivory soap.
Soap is good. Actually, a friend was at the store yesterday trying to buy soap, and all the soap was gone.
Really?
At Shoppers, every hand soap was gone.
Oh, hand soap, like one that you would...
No, the bars.
Also.
Gone.
Jesus, people, leave some for other people. You don't want to be walking around the germy people. Everybody needs soap.
He did buy, there was toilet paper though, and he was walking home and he felt like people who were like looking, toilet paper hoarder. I mean, there's like this time is it's insane what's going on, and we're recording this on like Thursday morning.
So by tomorrow it'll be obsolete.
I mean, there is every 15 seconds there's something new.
Well, we just got news. The NHL has suspended the regular season. This after the NBA yesterday decided to suspend things because of a Utah Jazz player testing positive. So we'll get into all that, but I want to start actually, if you don't mind, can we rewind?
I'll put these over here.
Save those for me.
Yeah,
no,
I'll keep them close. I'll keep them close.
No.
Next week we probably won't be here.
I did, however, when was the last time you cleaned your phone?
I clean it all the time.
I did the full outside case, inside case, full cleanup. Took my kids' iPad, same thing. Wash your hands, use it. Due diligence when we travel. You know, we'll use those wipes maybe on the plane before all of this. You just went on a trip.
I did.
And we have not talked about this because I want to know.
I know. I'm back and I'm fine. I'm healthy. You know, it's been about 4 days now. So, yeah, went to Los Angeles.
Touched your face.
I know, just touched my face, but you know, I'm in a secure environment. Outside the office, I never touch my face. That's the thing. All these crazy things you can't do. Yeah, we went to Los Angeles, Amanda and I, for the weekend away without the kids. Planned quite a long time ago before all this craziness happened. And
what was it like? Okay, walk us through it. So you go to the airport. You're a very pragmatic individual, so you're not like, ooh, I'm really nervous.
No, not nervous at all. But it was right out of the gate, literally at the gate, or literally on the way to the gate. We have Nexus, so usually with Nexus you go to this Vancouver airport, you fly into US, you go through customs in Vancouver. It's great because you get all that business done before you fly into US. So we go to our Nexus lineup and it's insane. The lineup's insane and it's going nowhere. And you're seeing the other lineup kind of moving faster, which is always very frustrating. And so you're in the Nexus lineup, you're waiting, everybody's getting mad. You know, Nexus people are very special. You know, we like our special treatment. But it was insane. And of course, you know, you're touching these screens, which was also, you're kind of going, well, maybe they should, you know, okay. Amanda, we brought wet naps and stuff and all those things for cleaning our hands, you know, like as I brought up, all this stuff we had with us. And then they had one customs agent, and it's an American customs agent as you're going through there. So we finally get to that person, the one guy handling the entire Nexus lineup, and he didn't ask us about any viruses. He didn't ask us if we were feeling sick. He didn't. You know, it was interesting. I thought they were going to ask us, have you been sick in the last week, or
have you been to Italy?
Do you have a fever? Have you traveled anywhere else? There was actually on the screen. There was a question about traveling. Okay.
But no.
Nothing
how you doing?
Nothing like that. And then we got into the airport, and then we it was busy. It was busy,
was it?
And didn't seem extraordinarily quiet or anything like that. The flight was pretty much full.
Anything different on the flight? Anything?
We were different as far as just wiping down the surfaces with our wet nappy with the stuff on it. You know, it was WestJet, so there was no screens, so you didn't have that. So it was just kind of, you're just a bit more cautious. There was one guy, I think it was on the way back or the way there. I think it was the way home. He was coughing a lot in the terminal and sneezing a lot, and we're like, okay, like literally, he was sneezing not even covering his mouth. He was like sneezing into this wall. It was like, we're like, oh God, I hope he doesn't sit by us. So you have this mentality.
I want to move away from sitting with you right now.
No, it was just like this weird thing you think about. And then walking around, we were in Beverly Hills, you know, just kind of hanging out and wandering around, and nothing seemed. There was one restaurant we went to one night was quiet. But everything seemed quite normal. It seemed more normal down there than it did here when we left. It seemed like people weren't talking about it as much. But I got a text from friends who we saw while we were down there, and they're Canadians, and they said today they went to the store and all the toilet paper was gone. So their toilet paper run is happening now.
So they're just on the other side of the wave.
About a week behind us, I'd say, than us. So, you know, this is a moving a moving target, as it were. So it was an interesting experience. Coming back, the airport was also busy. But it was really fast to get through. So I don't know. I mean, it seemed mostly normal. But then that was before
Trump
yesterday, before Trudeau potentially. We'll find out maybe later today if he has it.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this a bit. If you haven't been locked into the news, and I think people are more engaged in news than ever before right now.
Yeah, that's one thing we noticed. Everybody was talking about it.
Right.
Everybody around us. It was unbelievable. You never hear, you think about these great things that happen in incidents like 9/11, big things like that. But even those, they sort of wane after a couple of days. This thing's just like constant people talking about it all the time.
Well, it's building. I mean,
yeah.
Yesterday morning, so that would be Wednesday morning if you're listening to this on the weekend, on Wednesday morning, when the World Health Organization held their daily press briefing and officially said, we can say that this is now a pandemic, right? That made a lot of people go, oh, pandemic. And really, that doesn't speak to the severity of the virus. Like, that's an important piece. And the fear that comes along with what we're experiencing, I myself admit to being anxious about the uncertainty that comes with this. However, it brings my human resolve back around to go, okay, wait, this isn't going to necessarily be solved by politicians or directives or even the scientists. On some level, the responsibility falls to us as citizens to do some due diligence. So we need to take a breath and we need to take a step and say, okay, take a step back and look at what's happened so far, because what we're hearing as of this morning is China's kind of turned the corner on this. And granted, China did lock down 1 billion with a B people, like full lockdown.
Yeah. Because they can do that.
Because they can. It was draconian for sure. A little bit looser is what's happened to Italy. All of Italy being shut down. And just prior to coming to sit down to record this, our executive producer, Amanda Bates, said that Italy's death rate overnight went up 23%. Was it the death rate, mortality rate? She's going to get back to me. She's Googling it. But it's really and that's the piece that we all, as we sit here, like a week ago, we could not have imagined the NHL canceling or suspending the season, suspending it.
NHL, NBA, everybody. And
because when we do turn the corner, things will return to somewhat normal. It's how taxed will our system be between now and then. That's the key, right?
Of course, because that's the difference between China and Italy, where they were able to build hospitals really quick, interim hospitals, whereas in Italy they are not quite as organized, and they're having this challenge because what happens is people want to see their doctor if they're feeling sick because they want to make sure they don't have it. Even though the actual mortality rate is high, but it's not, that's specific, it seems so far, to older or people who have other health issues. Unlike SARS, and we were talking about this, I think we've talked about this before, had a different kind of scenario.
SARS was killing healthy young people.
Yeah.
COVID-19, for the most part, is not.
Based on the data we're getting, so it's not a death sentence necessarily, depending on where, but it's scary. And the challenge is if you get it, and then you go to the hospital, and then you inundate the hospitals with your needs. And that's what's happened in Italy. They just can't keep up. And of course the doctors and the nurses get sick, and everybody is getting sick. And of course your neighbors don't want to help you because they got their own problems. So you can't say, oh, we'll go into, it's not like a forest fire where okay, let's all go help Australia. This is where, we got to take care of ourselves here.
And I think there's a big piece to that in terms of how do we take care of ourselves. I put out a tweet yesterday because I made the decision with my son's father, with my ex-husband. Yeah. We decided, spring break is 2 days away. The kids are really, grade 7, you're not really doing all that much scholastic work over the next 2 days. They're watching movies and they're hanging out. And I thought, well, I have the ability to pull him out of the mix. And, we'll do stuff, we'll stay busy and whatever. And that's not me being panicky about him being at school and maybe getting sick. It's just taking one piece of the puzzle away, right? Like if we can just all, if possible, take that one little bit away instead of that event that you were thinking about going to this weekend. And I'm not trying to slam events. I'm not. It's just if we could all just say, for the next couple of weeks, we're going to do as little as possible outside of our bubble, if we can afford it. And then the people who have to keep going, our frontline healthcare workers come to mind, they're a little bit less at risk. We're flattening out the curve because that curve is how quickly the numbers add up to really a large portion of the population getting sick. Because the fact of the matter is all the scientists say, it's here and it's coming at us at light speed. So if we can delay so that I get sick 3 weeks from now with flu-like symptoms and need to keep myself in quarantine, I'm not getting it this next 2 weeks while you and you and you and you and you.
Yeah, because the data is like 30 to 70% of us, which is quite a broad range, will get
it. Right. And we'll all be most of us will be fine. The majority of us will be fine. So what we're trying to do is the social distancing and flattening the curve where you can. Because I had somebody going, oh, your privilege must be really nice. And I'm like, thanks for your support. My privilege is that I'm a freelancer and I've just worked a ton and I have the opportunity, because spring break was a window that I wanted to take with my son, COVID-19 or not. And we were planning on hanging around at home. We don't have a trip that we're going to cancel. So I'm not affected by all those things. And I'm turning it all to me because I can do this. Maybe if you can do this, maybe you would consider doing it.
Well, and as a business owner, I've got a small team, and it's certainly a discussion. We sent out an email to our team last week saying, you know, if there's any symptoms of anything, don't come to work. And then, of course, take your computers home with you every day. You know, we have the opportunity to work from home. Amanda has some data.
Oh. Italy daily death rate jumps 23%.
So you were bang on. The daily death rate jumped 23% from Wednesday to Thursday in Italy. They are feeling the spike. They're not able to flatten that curve, and because that becomes triage, right? When there's so many people overwhelming the healthcare system, there are only so many ICU beds. There are only so many respirators. That takes me back to SARS, which again brings the anxiety up, because if you happen to be one of those people with an elder in care, I can't go see my dad right now. I'm fearful that he is fearful. That makes me anxious. But I'm not going to go see him to make myself feel better.
And you know, the thing is, Amanda has, her mom's here and she's in her 70s, and we haven't even had this conversation, to be honest, about whether we should be visiting her or whether she should be being isolated herself just to protect herself. It's things like this you have to think about now, and it's not normal, obviously, and but everybody needs to think about this in order to stop that curve from going,
the spike. If we can flatten out that spike a bit, we're all going to get through this. Like, we're going to get through this. This too shall pass.
Now, you wrote a column this week.
I did.
About Dr. Bonnie Henry, who's in charge of basically she's our go-to person right now.
She
usually
let
we
us
talk about your column at the end, but I think this is a good time to kind of bring this in, because I think there's a lot of politics. But your column was talking about how great she's doing. You go ahead, just tell a brief, and then we could talk about the politics a bit about this as well.
Let's do that.
I think
okay, so
politics for sure.
I didn't know how to write my column this week in such a crazy news cycle, and knowing that the second that I submitted it, it would pretty much be outdated if I had any kind of statistic put in there. And so I wanted to think about, how is this affecting and impacting, you know, our household, our family, our group of friends, you know, how am I consuming this? And every day on CKNW, I've been working there, feels like 7 days a week for the past while. It's like a very quick news cycle, and one consistent piece is Dr. Bonnie Henry and Adrian Dix, for that matter, and the clips of them each and every day. They were holding sometimes multiple press briefings in a day, and then they decided to move it to 3:30 each day. They would do a press briefing. And last weekend, Dr. Bonnie Henry had an emotional moment within one of the press briefings when speaking about how COVID-19 had been detected at a care facility on the North Shore, and how terrifying that is for so many people. And then she kind of broke down, and then she said, please don't play that clip a lot, because my parents are going to be, you know, worried about me, because she's clearly exhausted, as she would be, right?
She's dealing with every health authority, everything.
And keeping us informed. So you can read more. My column is basically an open letter to Dr. Bonnie Henry, and I'm so grateful, because she calms down my son. He feels like, oh, are we watching Dr. Bonnie now? Yeah, we are. Let's find out what's going on, because we need the facts, we do. But in there, I've put 3 really important links: World Health Organization, Health Canada, and travel.gc.ca. So those are 3 links that you can count on. There is no fake
politics,
news, torques, headlines.
If you don't trust the media, like a lot of people are blaming the media on this, it's not. This is, you can get some real information there.
The Orca.ca.
Yeah, the Orca.ca.
You can find it on there, or at Jody Vance, at UnSpun Podcast, at George
_.
Yeah, it's all there. But she's even politicians who would like to take a shot at the NDP, Adrian Dix, in this, are saying,
it's
well done.
No touch zone. Like the BC specifically, I think, is being apolitical. You know, they're being just non-partisan as much as they can, as far as. And I think, you know,
it's to be commended.
Just give us the data, which is kind of their approach. Like, here's what's happening. Here's where things are at. Here's what you need to think about. Just straight answer the questions that come to you. If you don't have the answer, this is basic crisis communications that you do. Answer the questions that you get asked. If you don't have the answer to that question, then you say, I'll get back to you on that question and get back to you. These are basics in crisis communication. And so they're following the rule book, which is unusual in politics. Because there are other provinces. I know I saw some tweets from Alberta today that say there is that sort of partisan stuff going on there. I've seen a couple of tweets from some federal politicians running for leadership of the Conservatives, for example, and there's been some partisan stuff, and you know, it's one of those things like, you know what, don't go there. I've been very careful about on this subject. I don't really think I've tweeted much at all, except for thanks to, say, Dr. Bonnie Henry or stuff like that, because I think, you know, this is not the time to get political, unless, of course, you're doing a really terrible job at it, or you're creating more chaos, which we're seeing. Certainly, that's kind of the story that's in the States, where you see Trump flip-flopping on this issue within a day.
Mixed messages, and that goes back to what you said.
Choosing to do things like, you know, the flights from Europe. Well, like, what's the strategy here? It's interesting. It's an approach. I mean, it's almost like, okay, well, it's not a surprise. And politicians, you know, it's more of a surprise that we're not being political in BC, perhaps.
I'm glad we're not.
Than they are other places.
I did speak with a physician out of Ontario on the radio the other day, Dr. Isaac Bogosh. And I ended up keeping him on for 2 segments because it was fascinating, sort of how he was pragmatically answering some frequently asked questions and sort of giving us like how does it look in getting tested. And what was fascinating to me, and I think worthy of us discussing here on UnSpun podcast, is how you can get tested in Ontario differs greatly in how you can get tested in BC. And I think that we've done a great job, our provincial health authority has done an excellent job of the mitigation piece, like trying to, containment piece, because mitigation is once you get into community transmission, but pretty much up until very recently, we could trace, our health authority could trace each case back to, they were in Iran, they were in South Korea, they were in Italy, they were in China. Like, we could, of our cases.
Some anomalies there, but there
but ultimately it was like they're related to or in the same house as somebody who is already a positive, So now as we're going beyond containment and into mitigation, trying to mitigate community transmission, in Ontario they have started these pop-up testing, specific COVID-19 testing, off-site of emergency rooms. So the people that are there, the frontline healthcare workers are there just to swab people. And the swab, not an enjoyable test to have, but certainly not terribly invasive.
Into your nose,
not
nasal
fun.
cavity, for sure. So
here in British Columbia, I'm not going to name my friend, obviously, but I have a friend of mine who was in attendance at that conference in Ontario where, well, it was a headline on all news outlets on Wednesday that there was a man from Sudbury who is now tested positive. He's a presumptive positive case of COVID-19 who attended that. 25,000 people were at the convention, and my friend was one of them. So she's back home, has been home for a week, and she's like, okay, what do I do? And she's very due diligence kind of person. And I said, well, you're going to either self-quarantine, self-isolate for at least another week, and it'd be hard to backtrack on how many people she's seen since she was back. But the best thing you could possibly do is go be tested so you can rule that out. Because if you have the test and it's negative, then you don't have to quarantine and isolate.
Right, but it takes a day to get the test back.
24 hours, yeah.
So sorry, in Ontario, in these facilities, are they also containing them? Because I know that Tom Hanks, who's in Australia, who's tested positive for the virus, has also was not allowed to leave the hospital. He went into the hospital himself, apparently, he and his wife.
Well, because they weren't feeling well, so they went and got tested.
So they go to the hospital, and then they're not allowed to leave the hospital until the test comes back.
My understanding,
which is not what we're doing here.
No, my understanding in Ontario and I didn't specifically ask that question, but I got the general feeling from Dr. Bogosh that people were going to these facilities and obviously having their MSP or whatever, I guess it's OHIP, the health plan in Ontario, where
this is where national medical
it would be
helps.
Wouldn't that be great?
Well, that we have,
right? But
like having a system in place, at least from.
But wouldn't that be great if the system also was like standardized across, in terms of what we're doing here? And we'll get to that in a moment. But I don't think people are staying
Yes.
after being tested. They are being told to go home and self-isolate until the results of their test are made available, and by way of having their information as part of the test.
That begs the question, what happens in between them leaving the hospital and getting home, and if they test positive, you know, how many surfaces did they touch, and how many...
Well, the concern is,
if you're feeling like
they're telling people, as my friend did, when she went to try and get tested, did not take public transit.
Right.
Did not take a taxi.
She
got
did
herself
not.
got herself there on her own.
She was
wore a scarf. Actually wore just gloves because it's cool outside. But she was very mindful all of a sudden as soon as she knew, and then went to be tested because there was like a 2.5 hour wait time on 811 because they're all like, call 811.
Right.
Okay. So she went down to one of the urgent care spots on Hornby, I think it is.
Okay, so this is the friend that was
here.
mine.
Yes.
This is here.
And then she went in, and it was packed with people. And she took number 93. They were serving number 73. She was there for an hour, and 2 people went in. So basically, it's a clinic, and she's just waiting in line at a clinic, as opposed to why not just getting a swab? Maybe we should be thinking like
that. There's a one service only that they're offering, right?
Well, we do that with needle exchanges here. For goodness sake, we do kind of have a system that we could.
So are you criticizing the government? I mean, that's
I'm asking,
if I have a criticism of, I would say that's the next step. We need to move fast on this, and I would say that certainly the mayors have been quite quiet, which is surprising. I haven't seen a lot of leadership from them. Maybe they're relying on the province to take leadership on this. But for example, in the city of Vancouver, we have some places where we could potentially do a pop-up tent. I would argue that if you want to contain this and people are coming in and they're feeling sick, that they should not leave, because you don't know what's going to happen to them after.
But where do you put them?
Well, that's why you need to build these, these structures. That's one of the things with, versus China versus Italy, where they were, you saw those stories in China where they were building in giant hospitals or converting
in a week
buildings into hospitals temporarily, so that because they were trying to contain it, so that people would come in, you can't leave, or containing this, you're contained until it's otherwise. I mean, I think that has to be the next step for us to feel assured that
But we don't have the ability to go to that degree.
Yeah, but
we have people that need to be tested so they can self-contain.
You go to
start
emergency.
somewhere.
Yeah, you sit there for 4 hours, or you wait, or you say, "Oh, sorry, we can't see you today." You're like, "Okay, I guess I'll go home again until I can get sick." That is the beginning of a problem in my mind.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But we cannot rely on Dr. Bonnie Henry and Adrian Dix to set these things up while they're managing a pandemic.
That's our structure.
But
we have the regional health authorities.
Can we not do things right? Can we not do things from on a municipal level? Can the mayors? There's no bigger story. There's no greater need right now. There's nothing in City Hall.
I would say that
in City Council.
I would say leadership should be each city should say to their local provincial health authority, we've got a space. Here's a space that we have in our city. We're gonna pay for. Well, let's talk to the tenting companies, who clearly are probably not going to be tenting right now because all the events are being canceled.
Good
a lot of tents available. Put up some tents, massive tents, assuming the worst. And try to contain a contained area in each city and pay for that cost as part of it. I know it's a taxpayer thing, but this is every taxpayer. We all are, there's only one taxpayer, and this is one of those situations that we all have to dig in here.
Right, but we have to be mindful of not creating spaces that mirror cruise ships, because piling a bunch of people in a tent is not a good idea.
No, I'm not going to tell you how to build these things or what to do, but there's got to be a process where we can get them out of going into the general hospitals or into these drop-in clinics where maybe I'm there with my kid with a skinned knee or whatever, and you've got somebody who's got a virus beside you. You're like, oh, this is.
We need an off-site. We need an off-site
controlled facility with
where
doctors there 24/7.
That anybody who wants to be tested gets a swab.
Because this is what it's all. It's fear it's the biggest challenge here. Is that we know the data, it's scary, of course, it's about how do we control this, stopping all these events and that kind of stuff, containing it, yes, but it's also, like, you look at the stock market, you look at this, in some ways there's no reason for the stock market to be crashing. We're just going to try and stop here and solve this problem for what it might be 2 months, and then we'll see how things go.
We've seen
it's
a
not
fiscal
the
cliff
end of the economy.
before.
Yes, we've had.
Yeah, you've been through.
I've been through, as a business, I've been through two. In 9/11 led to a recession, and then 2008, of course. And so, as a business owner, you have to always think about the long game. You have to also think about the short game and make plans,
take care of your people.
And you hopefully have some money set aside. But most small businesses don't have a lot of money set aside.
No.
And you have staff, you have the payroll, you have all the operating costs, and so you kind of have to go, okay, I'm still focused on my business, because you can't let this stuff, these outward things like take you off your game.
Yeah, can't derail you completely. You have to keep moving
if you're
forward.
a public company and your stock's gone from $4 to, I mean, look at the bank stocks. Like Bank of Montreal is at what, $70 or something, which it was $150 like a couple months ago. That's a problem. And so the repercussions, we don't even understand what they're going to be for our economy over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, in Canada, remember those things that we were doing, those pickets or the protesters on the
rail blockades.
Remember that time? That kind of stuff started the economy crashing, and now this is a double whammy where we have the economy completely stalling, and now the Prime Minister giving $1 billion to start with, which is going to be a lot more than $1 billion based on what he's describing to take care of this problem. In America, you multiply that for them by, it's going to be $1 trillion of money they're going to have to spend to deal with this. But I would say that every government, every level should be addressing this, including how do you operate as a government. I have to check, because I'm pretty sure that, for example, city councils are not permitted to hold virtual meetings. I think the charter and the municipal act doesn't allow it. So that means they have to ask the province, who oversees the act, and I'm pretty, because I know we had some meetings when I was there that we couldn't do, like when we got locked out of the city hall.
Right.
We actually had to go off-site and hold a mini meeting and call it to order out in the grass outside the city hall, because we couldn't say, well, let's just all go home and do it from home. You just can't do that.
Allowed.
So there should be an immediate action, because we can't let government stop. Government has to continue to operate, to make decisions about how to deal with this. And if government stops operating because of this, then that's not going to help us, and that's not leadership.
We got to bring it all the way back to trying to calm the waters just enough to know that we, each and every one of us, have a responsibility and a job to do in this. And that's to try and keep the calm, share with one another, stop hoarding toilet paper for the love of God, and just,
And soap.
And soap.
Just
leave some for everybody, right? Like, we're Canadians, let's be polite about it. We are in this together. And the one thing about having been through SARS in Ontario, like literally working down the road from Scarborough General Hospital, which was ground zero for SARS, and having a family member have triple bypass surgery in the midst of it, like, there are people who have experienced this, and I'll go back to my column. Dr. Bonnie Henry helped, dove in headlong on SARS, led this country out of it. She was present for Ebola in Ethiopia. She was instrumental in eradicating polio in Pakistan. She knows what she's doing. So stay informed, listen to the experts, and try and do everything you can to calmly move forward in this. Like, I really think everybody just take a moment, and if you can look in on the people who maybe don't have people to take care of them, like if there's an elderly person in your neighborhood, like, just check on them. 6 feet away, you're good. It just, no hugging. We're bumping elbows. I don't, I'm a hugger. You're like, but
stay away.
We're doing this now. Just
actually, I had a new client meeting yesterday, and you totally forget. You go, and I hadn't met one of the people before, and I put my hand out, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, how rude. And of course, and I go, oh yeah, right, of course. So we have to change our natural tendencies, touching our face,
but it's all
washing
weird.
our hands on a regular for 20 seconds, all these kinds of things, which seems like normal, but also you have to think about these things and you have to do them.
Let's be real, none of us were washing our hands for a full 20 seconds every single time before this happened, and we all are now.
I kind of was a bit of a germaphobe.
Well, you are a germaphobe, but my son wasn't.
Yeah.
He was like trying to find a way to do it as fast as possible, and now because of Dr. Bonnie Henry, he is washing his hands and doing his due diligence. So the health updates happen in British Columbia every day at 3:30 p.m. So wherever you are and however you work, tune in, read about it.
Most news stations go live.
Yes.
So you can.
BC One has it. Lynn Steele Show will have it every day.
I think most of them do it live.
Some of them are an hour and a half long, but typically 5 or 10 minutes off the top is what you need, and the Q&A comes after. But be tuned in and engaged is what we're saying. And we just spent the entire podcast.
Unusual times.
I just got an alert that the 100th Vancouver International Auto Show has been canceled.
Wow.
Yeah. So cancel most of your stuff and just keep it tight.
I'm dealing with that with one of my clients right now. Looks like that's what the decision we'll be making probably within the hour.
That's it for us. We'll see you next week here on UnSpun.
Thanks.
Bye.